Blockbusters, franchises and remakes can clog up the movie wheel. So amongst the new release of trailers battling Tomorrowland, Machina and the Black Mass is an adorable animation without comparison. The Little Prince has released its second international trailer and not only stole my attention, but a little bit of my dignity.
Once upon a time, there was a little prince who lived on a planet that was scarcely bigger than himself.
I thought I'd never find anyone who wanted to hear my story.
If you please, draw me a sheep. What was a kid doing there in the desert? There was no mention of life on any other planets.
An asteroid B612.
You are the Everland.
Wow.
And the little prince,
One world away.
he was very fond of sunsets.
I'll make believe in while I'm wide awake.
The Little Prince is an animated fantasy film directed by Kung Fu Panda's Mark Osborne. Based on the classic French children's book Le Petit Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, the story follows a young girl voiced by Mackenzie Foy and her very loving yet OCD helicopter mum voiced by Rachel McAdams. A paper plane flies into their house and we are first introduced to the stargazing elderly neighbour voiced by Jeff Bridges. The little girl returns the drawing to her neighbour and we witness the film's exceptional use of colour. It was the first time I was emotionally drawn in. So where does The Little Prince fit in all of this? Well, this film is actually a story within a story. And to separate the two, we are taken from the computer animated present into the stop motion narrative. This is beautifully introduced with an airplane flying into the whirlpooling clouds of paper with a tunnel symbolising a time vortex. As narrator of the novella, the elderly neighbour tells the story of an aviator landing in the middle of the desert. This is where we are introduced to the Little Prince and asteroid B612. The opening of the curtains to a hoarder's paradise represents the opening of the girl's eyes to a world of imagination and dreams. The incredible song you can hear is Salvation by Gabriel Aplin. The trailer then moves back and forward between worlds and animation styles as the story is told, with relatable context like the sun rising and then setting in a world of colour. The protagonists in the original novella are the narrator and the prince. While it appears the fox wants to be tamed and is learning from the prince, it is in fact the prince who is learning from the fox, who is passing on valuable lessons to the narrator. Still following? In this flick, we take a step back even further to introduce the young girl as an additional protagonist, another who is learning from every interaction. The more times I watched the trailer, the more times my mind was blown. Open to interpretations, of course. When the girl says she's found a friend, I associate this with the prince meeting the fox, which is the next reveal in the trailer.
Come and play with me.
I cannot play with you. I'm not tamed.
Obviously, only so many of the novella's quotes can be used in 2.5 minutes, so some of its depth and complexity can be lost without prior understanding. But that only creates a greater interest and desire to fulfill the entire story. As the scenes progress, it becomes more apparent the pair are likened to the characters. And then we hit one of the best two quotes.
What is essential is invisible to the eye.
A montage of colour, spark and adventure follows to pique the adrenaline, followed by our second lesson.
I'm not so sure I want to grow up anymore.
Growing up is not the problem. Forgetting it.
It's the first time the young girl considers that growing up may not be so appealing. A chance meeting with a well-travelled snail will certainly change your perspective on things. This is followed by the old man's advice and a contrasting butterfly to demonstrate that's not really the problem. And a solar insect complements the moment perfectly. Despite all the magic consuming the screen, it is the quiet, heartfelt moments like this that bring the viewer back to the true purpose of the tale. The child that once existed is not dead but buried. In meeting the Little Prince, the author allows that child to come back to life. We then come full circle with the old man telling the young girl she's going to make a wonderful grown-up. Or is he telling the prince?
You're gonna make a wonderful grown-up.
Overall, what captured my undivided attention was the mix of stop motion and computer animation. I'm sure fans of the beloved tale will be happy to see that the novella's drawings have been respectfully adapted rather than converted to CGI. The yellows, gold and stars used throughout the trailer are also a nice complement to the original book. Of course, the calibre of cast should push the film along nicely at the box office. In addition to those mentioned, we have Paul Rudd, Bud Cort, personal favourite Marion Cotillard, who also stars in Cannes competitor Macbeth, Ricky Gervais and Paul Giamatti to name a few. The world premiere will be at the 68th Cannes Film Festival, followed by wide theatrical release in France on the 29th of July. Le Petit Prince is the most read and third most translated book in the world. This charming film adaptation will only increase its awareness globally and allow the story to be shared with current generations.